Whoa, hey, I'm here. Sorry, I'm late. A little bit late. Just a little bit late. What's going on, people? How are you? Good morning. And top of the morning to you. Sunday late. I need some of this. I haven't had enough of this. We've got 60 people online already. I'm sorry I'm late. Just, Sunday morning. Had to get here and make coffee and good slurp there. Okay. Well, last Sunday before NAMM. Last one of these I'll do before the NAMM show. I can finally show and talk about this thing that we've got. James F says, let's start with that. He says, Pete, your hair is always amazing. Hey, thanks. I don't know what happened. I thought I was going to get up and leave when I was about 22, but it didn't. Every guy, my dad, my grandfathers, everybody was bald, and I didn't go bald, so I don't know what happened. But I just got lucky. Do you feel like aesthetics plays into getting a job in your field? Yeah, it does. It totally does. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it can also work against you depending on what. It just depends on what. This camera over here is falling over. Just fixing it. You might. You know what I mean? It's okay. The very first touring gig that I ever auditioned for, I almost got. But I was actually beat out by my friend Yogi Lonich, who ended up touring with me with Chris Cornell. I had really long hair. I had hair. I looked like, a lot of people said I looked like Anthony from Chili Peppers back then, like in the 90s. I had really hair down to my waist almost. And that could work in one situation, and maybe in another situation it wouldn't. And somebody at the label evidently said, oh, that guy's got that look or whatever. We don't want that look or something. So I heard that. And then Yogi actually ended up, oh no. You know what happened was it was actually John 5 that got the gig. And John back then he always had this he had blonde hair and was wearing feather boas and stuff. And he just had this crazy look. He was offered the gig. He ended up turning it down, and then they got Yogi. That's what happened. But anyway, my look at the time, which might have worked for many gigs, the long hair thing, super duper long hair, they didn't want that. So that's what I heard. I don't know if it was a playing thing too. Maybe they like John's playing better than mine or something, but I heard the look was a factor, and that somebody at the label had seen a video of me and they were like, oh, we don't want that guy's look. So you never know. That could have been the perfect look for a certain band. Yeah, it's hard to say. Ben says, seems like Pete has another new guitar. Yeah, so that guitar, I haven't played it a lot recently. I'll show you this guitar. I love this guitar though, and I need to play it more. And it's not because I don't like it. This is a Yaren that Gil made for me. I don't know. I've had it for a long time, actually. It's probably like 3 years. But I just haven't had a chance to play it that much. So I love this guitar because it's got the, just look at it. But it's got the kind of Gretschy knobs on it. And that's where I actually want to get a silver switch tip for it. So it's more like Gretsch, And it's obviously got the aesthetic of kind of like my Sir signature. Although it's a little more brown on the back and a little less red. But it's kind of Gretschy, right? I mean, this is a Gretsch thing anyway. This sort of aesthetic that they did on their similar sort of single cut models. The deal with this guitar is that it is obviously very sort of Les Paul, but it's got less bridge angle. Less neck angle, which allows the bridge to sit lower to the body. So it's a little more like a 53 Les Paul as far as the neck angle goes. And Gil thinks that look how good that looks on the dish on the top. Damn, it's like a pretty sexy guitar. But yeah. So with the neck angle being less, you can get the bridge lower, and it also affects the tone. Gil thinks it makes the tone a little sweeter or something. And it's a terrific sounding guitar. I want to get the nut tweaked a little bit on it because it's a little. I feel like the nut. I might take it to my friend Norick Ranson that did a similar thing on my 335. Just the tuning is a little tough, and I believe that if he does what he did on my 335, if he builds the lip out a little bit on the nut, that it'll fix it. But anyway, cool guitar, and sounds ferocious, just like the other one I have. Okay, let's see here. Word up from Minneapolis, says Dan. What's up, Dan? And Jack says, tell us something about that dark cherry red Sir T style with 2 humbuckers. That's a nice guitar. So that guitar, let's get it and talk about it a bit. I've played it a little bit on videos and stuff this week and last week. This guitar could use a polish. This is an Alt T, so this is a standard guitar that they make in their line, and it's a hollow, ash, such a semi-hollow. It's got a block in the middle, but semi-hollow, sort of Vef hole style. With one of these, wacky bridges on it and stuff like that, and it's got thornbuckers in it. And so this is a guitar they've been making for a number of years, and it's just that sort of almost like a 70s vibe T, and it's just a great guitar. It's got a cool, like, kind of, I think of it as a rhythm guitar. Or for I played this on my album on In Good Company. It's the tone of the first guitar that comes in, the clean guitar. So for things like that, I'll reach for this guitar. The middle position with the 2 humbuckers is got a lot of almost single coil like clarity when both humbuckers are on. Not in single coil mode, but when they're both, in full series humbucking, it's got a warmth but a lot of clarity. So it's great for, clean chord kind of stuff. And then semi overdriven and stuff. I probably wouldn't play it if I was doing some shredding, stuff. Yeah, I find guitars like this, and maybe it's just me, but they don't have a real strong mid-range poke for solos and stuff like that. It's more of an airy kind of thing, although there's nothing wrong with playing a solo on a guitar like this. But if I'm gonna do that, I'll probably more likely reach for my signature guitar or a 335 or Les Paul or something like that, something that's got that mid kind of, and then I'll do something like this if I'm going for more sort of chordal or arpeggiated, that kind of thing. Somebody's up in the top chat. Who's up there? From Canada, I do believe. Jay from Canada says, I like the sound of the Alt T standard SSV pickups. Please compare the SSVs to your Thornbuckers. And what do you think 50s wiring gives Les Paul? So the SSVs with their Alnico 5 magnets and balanced coils, they're a little more of a balanced coil kind of thing, have a bit more of a typically, I would say, a little. The bridge pickup's going to be a little more bass, and the treble is going to be a little bit more pronounced on it, a little less mids on the SSV. That's what I heard when we did it. It's a little less sweet or something. It's got a. John really likes the Thornbucker, I know, because when you get up really high on the top string, it just had this smoothness to it compared to the SSV that was really nice. And yet it's got a great, the bridge position. You don't need, like, especially for sort of like mid-gain tones and stuff like that, you don't need a ton of this treble. It's already got it because of where it is in the guitar. So it's like the balance of the Alnico 4 magnet, which to us sort of had this characteristic of all the frequencies being balanced, the bass, the middle, and the treble. When you do the Alnico 5, it boosts the bass a bit and the treble a bit. It sort of hypes almost like a loudness button on a stereo. It has that effect a little bit. So it's a little bit of a different sound. The Thornbucker with the 4, it just has a sweetness to it that is a little less edge on the top, on the high treble frequencies. So that's the main difference. And then in the neck, the Thornbucker is very similar to an SSV, but it's got the unbalanced coils. It's an Alnico 5 in the neck, actually, but it's got unbalanced coils, and it just tends to open up the tone a little bit. Like, it's a little more of a single coil character, just a little bit, than an SSV. So that's the main difference that you'll notice. What do I think 50s wiring gives in a Les Paul? You know, I did 50s wiring on a guitar that had the standard modern wiring, and it just seems to make the controls, I don't know, maybe it was just me, but the controls work sort of quicker and you get more roll down, and it has, evidently it's supposed to preserve the, like, so that you don't get as much high end cut when you roll the volume down. So you can do more Jimmy Page's kind of stuff and get the, you know, the middle position and live in the middle, and then kind of just, it's all about the balance of those two volumes, bringing them up and down for the different tones. And Jimmy almost evidently never, I don't think, really switched the pickup selector. He's always like in the middle and then changing the volumes. It's all about the mix, you know. John Shanks, who's a huge Jimmy Page aficionado, was mentioning that to me once, that it's all about the middle on the Les Paul for him. And it works, so the 50s wiring works really well for that sort of thing. Like if you're a modern player and you're just kind of like bridge position rocking all the time or whatever, and then you hit the neck pickup for high gain solos or whatever, this isn't going to matter really. But if you're living on the middle and rolling those volumes up and down, that's where the 50s wiring seems to have more of a dramatic effect on the, you know, the roll up and the roll down and the clarity and stuff like that. Okay, back to the live chat. Hope that answers those questions. Let's see if I can find my place here. Tempted to put a Bigsby on it, says Ched, about the, I guess about the Yaren. I would like one guitar with, oh, I do have a guitar with a Bigsby on it. I forget sometimes. I've got a, Trissart that I don't play that much because it's a unique guitar and it's a metal body and stuff like that. It's in storage right now, but it is a really beautiful guitar and it works well for certain things, and it's got a Bigsby on it. I should get that guitar out and play it more on something, you know. I used it in the, if anybody wants to see that guitar with the Bigsby on it, I used it in the Eventide H9 video I did, and I played a little bit on it in that video. As well as, I think I did a video just for the Trissart guitar when I first got a hold of one. I had a, I don't know if it even was the one that I had, but it was a black one with like pinstriping on it. It was really cool looking, and I came up with some clean part that I actually really liked as a song, and I wanted to kind of develop it further. But anyway, somewhere if you look for Trissart and my name on YouTube, you'll see that guitar with the Bigsby. David says, how's the studio tour part 2 going? Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like, oh yeah, I got to do that. I've just been so like, you know, it's always leading up to NAMM. There's like 5 or 6 videos you have to kind of get done for companies that have new pedals coming out and stuff like that. So I'm working on that, as well as the video for the main thing that I'm introducing at NAMM, stuff like that. So trying to get all that work done and stuff, so things just fall by the wayside. But once February comes around, I'm looking towards February for kind of, you know, more time to do these things. What's your process for writing melodies? Marty Friedman says his helps him with soloing. I just kind of tend to put my fingers on the guitar and then try and listen to whatever's happening in my head. Really, when I play a chord progression, you know, the chords will go by, and then I just sing in my head like what makes sense, you know, over those chords. Steve says, what's the best way to prepare for a house backline when you have songs that are clean and dirty? Well, just get your pedal board together, I think. You know, and have an overdrive or a distortion or both that tend to work well with different types of amps that have a wide range. If you play like modern rock or something, a nice choice is either the Eclipse is nice, or the Friedman BE pedals, because they have that really sweepable presence control on them that lets you really fine tune the top end. So if you got a deluxe reverb, or if you got a Vox AC30, you'd be able to dial it in, you know, for those different amps. But that's the main thing. Use a neutral clean sound, and if you're dialing into a house backline, have your pedal board together, use a neutral clean sound on some amp when you're practicing, and just dial in your pedals so that it sounds good with that neutral clean sound. And then when you get to the gig, whatever that amp is, try and get it as close as you could to whatever you were practicing with at home or at rehearsal or whatever. And you should be good, relatively good. You never know. But Joel says, do you think 10-inch speakers have the same name as their 12-inch, that have the same name as their 12-inch brothers sound close to the 12s? Does the Greenback 10 sound like the regular Greenback? So, Joel, yeah, the Greenback is killing. It's great. I got one, and it was all that in the bag of chips. It was everything I could have hoped for from a 10-inch version of a Greenback. It sounds so good. I replaced it in the little Marshall cabinet I have at home for my little JTM1. I put the Greenback in there, and I was blown away at how, it just does what you want it to do. It sounds great. So yeah, the 10-inch Greenbacks are great speakers. The 10-inch Golds are great speakers. A lot of people think the 10-inch Gold is one of the best speaker selections ever made. Really terrific sounding speakers, to replace, say, in a 410 Bassman or something like that. You can't go wrong there. Guild makes a similar guitar called the Blues Bird, says Paul. Yeah. The Yaren back there looks sort of like the Blues Bird. I agree with absolutely. The lower cutaway is similar and stuff like that. What size frets on that, says Tim? They're kind of jumbo, vintage, Gibson-y style. Will you be performing anywhere during NAMM, says Dave? I'm not performing, but I'm doing a panel for UA. So I'll be at Universal Audio on Thursday evening and Saturday, not evening, but 4 p.m. So there's a panel that I'm doing once with Tim Pierce and once with John Shanks and another fellow. I can't remember the other fellow's name. I'm sorry. But so Thursday at 4 p.m. and Saturday at 4 p.m. where we're talking about the aux and using that. So I'll be doing that. Am I doing anything else? I'm not really appearing anywhere else other than, not anything else in particular. I'll be at the Friday night thing that Andy's playing at with a whole slew of shredders. Andy Wood and Andy Timmons are both performing at a thing that's co-sponsored by Sir and Ibanez and some other companies. Neely's going to be there. Who else is playing? I can't remember right now. But anyway, it's Paul Gilbert is I think the headliner, and so it should be a really fun evening. Sounds like a bunch of great guitar players. I mean, anywhere that Andy and Paul Gilbert, if you're a fan of shred, but also great guitar, it's a great place to be. Cherry Bomb says, hey man, not trying to be rude, but do you have a lazy eye? This one's good. That one sucks. Not pulling for the team, this one. Lazy, so to speak, is the way to put it. Strabismus. Do you recommend I practice standing up, says Christopher Post? Yeah, it depends on what you're doing, but if you're performing at all, it's always good. You should practice the way that you're going to actually go out and do the gig is always great advice. Tones, volume, even background vocals, sing into a PA if you can. Practice as though you're gigging, and that always is, it's like if you're sitting in a chair playing and kind of humming quietly, or standing up singing through a PA, it's a totally different experience. If the first time you ever do it is on stage, it's probably not going to be a good thing. So I always recommend practicing like you're going to be performing, and then it feels the same when you get up there, except there's a bunch of people there and you've got more nerves. Let's see. Is Gil still building T and S style guitars? I think so. I haven't talked to Gil for a little while. I'd like to connect with him again. I wonder if he's coming out here for NAMM. Be nice to see him. What pickups are in the Black Gil? Just his standard ones. So, it's his standard sort of PAF set that I love. Let's see. James says, I got the first question today. I'll be on cloud 9 for the rest of today. Thanks. It was a good one, James. I was happy with it as well. Moving down. Have you ever wrapped your strings over the tailpiece on your Les Paul style guitar? I have tried it. It didn't really work for me. It's like the angle and the way that my bridges are, and then I couldn't get the top wrap thing to work. I tried it. I experimented a couple times, and then I just was like, this is dumb. Why am I doing this? I got other things to do today, and then I just bailed. I couldn't get. It was like the down pressure, I think, coming across the top of the tailpiece wasn't enough on the Tune-O-Matic, and I just ended up bailing on it. Hey, from Seattle, do you plan on touring at all for your new album? Would love to see your solo music live. Yeah, I'd love to get. I'm going to work on like getting together a set of some sort, and start there. You know, because it'd be great to have a set of like 8 tunes that I could go out and do. You know, an hour or whatever, 45 minutes or an hour, stretch out a little bit with 7 or 8 tunes at you know, club in town kind of thing. That's the step that I have to make first, you know. But yeah, I'd love to do it. And it's like I say, I'm looking forward to February, because it's just been crazy. This past, like, moving in here and building this place at the same time that I bought a place and moved my home, and then going right into NAMM after completing all of that around the holidays. It's just like as soon as NAMM gets done, then it's like, okay, no, there's a few things on the books, but it's like, it's much more like just like normal life and stuff. So then I can dial into, you know, getting into a practice routine again and practicing some of my songs from my record and stuff and putting together something. And so which string gauges are you preferring? That's Christian from Poland. I really like 9.5s these days. 9.5s. I've always struggled maybe just a little with 10s, because I don't feel like I have the strongest left hand. Even sitting here like right now at the angle I was just sitting at, my hand went numb. It's like, I just have kind of shitty wrists and stuff. I don't know. Like, I'm not the most hardy, you know, like my physical makeup or whatever. So it's like my hands I don't have the strongest left hand. So it's like the 9.5s was a decision. I thought I'd try those these years and see what they felt like. And sure enough, I really like them, and I got used to them. It was really when I was over in Japan, a funny thing happened. It was hot all summer, as it always is in Japan, actually, but it was exceptionally hot this year, and the venues were super hot over there anyway. And playing 10s when it's hot and sweaty, it just felt like they were 12s. It was this weird slog that was like, man, like bending, and it was just like, it was such a drag. So I thought, I got to try something, and I went to 9.5s. Then I found out that Paul Gilbert actually changes string gauges sometimes when he goes to different climates, and goes to a lighter gauge in a situation much like I was in. And I was like, oh, maybe it's not just me. I'm not just crazy, or like I got a problem with my hands or something. So I had my tech get me some 9.5s, and I started experimenting with those, and it felt about right. It was like, yeah, that feels like what I think 10 should feel like if all things were right in the world. So anyway, and then I just got used to them. So now I really like them. 9s to me are a little too light. Like I start to hear the plinkiness, or it's just like there's a thinness to it or something that's just not quite right for me. But 9.5s is almost like I didn't notice a difference with the tone. So yeah, so long story short, 9.5 to 44 is what I've been gigging and digging. How about that? Ready. Let's see. Do you set the action the same on all your guitars? Pretty much. Yeah, I do. I like it, you know, as playable as possible, with just a hair of relief in the neck, just a little bit of relief. Once again, for the same reasons. I'm not the most hardy sort of, you know, I'm pretty upfront about that. It's not like I have like super strong hands, I don't feel like. So I like the guitar to play well. Definitely. Let's see. I bet that T-style guitar is light. It is light. Yeah, quite light, because it's, you know, all hollow up here. So I don't know if they're hollow down here. I don't think so. It's just the top part. Yeah. Love Telly, says Rick. Yeah, definitely. Do all your guitars have similar nut width characteristics in terms of action? I wouldn't say they all have the same nut width. I try and keep the action low, but I don't mind different neck shapes, and I don't mind different radiuses even, or different scale lengths, you know. So yeah, does it have locking tuners? This one has locking tuners, yeah. That's from Dano. Old Guy's Guitar Vlog says, thinking about getting Thornbucker and two Sir single coils in an Ibanez S series. Should be great. The S series, is that really thin one? It's mahogany, I think those guitars are, or at least they used to be when they first came out, and that should sound really good, I would think. Let's see. Dacist says, with access to so much amazing equipment, how do you choose which gear to use each time you want to write music? It's sort of the path of least resistance, to tell you the truth. Something fell over. Like, so, which is, you know, I'll just say about the new thing that I have coming out with Sir. It's like, that's what I'm trying to do, is like make it easier and easier and easier to just get incredible guitar tones. And so like that is, you know, like, let's make something that's so great and simple to use, but in 3 minutes you can just have this, like, you just turn it on, you've got this world-class tone and can just track. So that's a big part of what I would pick, is it's just like, what's the easiest thing I can plug in right now to get a sound going, because I got an idea in my head and I don't want to lose it, you know. So nice guitar, cable, maybe a simple effect, pedals, something like that, into an amp that's, you just know sounds great, and then I want to be able to, you know, call up Logic and just like hit record on a track, and I've got the tone. And then, you know, and then that goes for my drums and all that stuff too. Like, I want to have, you know, a track with Superior Drummer dialed up or something like that, and just you know, ready to go. So that's very simple. That's what I recommend to people that want to be creative, is keep it as simple as you can, and the path from A to B, least amount of resistance, and then it's just more time for playing and just enjoying the tones and stuff like that. And there's lots of ways to do that these days, I guess. You know, if you got great modelers or whatever, you're got a sound dialed in that you love, you just turn the thing on and there it is. So we're lucky these days. Peter Evans says he's up in the top chat. Thank you, dude. Appreciate that. And Peter contributed to the top chat and said, just because your show makes my Sunday. I really appreciate that. Thanks, man. Me too. I look forward to this every week. I really do. It's fun for me. It's become by the way, I think this is number 52 this week, which would be 52 weeks is a year, right? 52 weeks in a year. I think so. It seems like I've been doing this longer than a year. I'm sure that I missed some. So it's probably well over a year ago that I started, but I guess 52 weeks means I've done a full year of these, which is pretty cool. And I still enjoy it just as much as when I started. Okay, Keith says he has Tom Anderson Bulldog. Those are cool. I remember those. Les Paul style with recessed bridge and tailpiece in the body. Love it. Yeah, I think Tom. Yeah, that's right. It does have the recessed bridge, right? And I think that for a lot of folks, me definitely included, is I got used to the height of the strings on a guitar like this, or, you know, Tele style, Strat style, where the strings are only this high off the body, and your hand just kind of lies there, and then it just sort of, it's almost like very natural, like the way your wrist just kind of goes across the bridge. Les Paul, you get this going, you know, because the bridge is so much higher. So in your hand, you get this angle, and that's a different kind of thing. And Tom addressed that in the Bulldog for sure. And I thought that was a cool thing. And Gil, in his own way, was trying to address it in the, let me just grab the other guitar again here. In this guitar, because this is something we talked about at length when he designed this guitar, was he's like, he goes, I think there's something to the tone of a 53 Les Paul, you know, the kind of with the not the tunematic bridge, but the, you know, just the stud bridge tailpiece combination and the less angle. And it has a kind of a sweet sound, and I think you would like it. So so he made this guitar with that in mind. Oh, we got 514 people online. That's awesome. Welcome everybody. How are you? Look at the dish. Look at the dish. Oh my God. Gil does fine work. You know, that is pretty. Yeah, it's a beautiful guitar he made. But anybody that is interested could contact him and ask him about this particular guitar that he made. And because it does have a really great, and it's got his characteristically, you know, ringy, awesome, you know, it's just made out of great wood and stuff. And they feel like, you know, there's something special too when a guy like that makes a guitar, and the fretwork and the necks are not like linear all the way up and down because he hand shapes them. So there's little, you don't really notice it, but there's like little peaks and valleys in the neck, and it's got this just beautiful, like organic kind of thing to it. That's because a guy did it by hand. So anyway, it's a great thing. Let's see here. There's a fellow here from Russia, so I can't say your name, my friend, because I can't say the letters. You guys got their different alphabet, of course. But can you make a review of the ADA MP1 channel, please? The MP1 I've messed with a little bit back in the day, which was, of course, the preamp of choice of some of, you know, like everybody from, Paul Gilbert, I think, used them for a while. A lot of around 89, you know, it was like that was the thing. The MP1 came out, and it was like, oh, MIDI programmable preamp tube with a lot of gain, kind of high gain modded sort of thing. Guys were using those with power amps and stuff. And I kind of liked that thing. I always liked that thing. It was cool. It did sound good. That, and does anybody remember the Lee Jackson Perfect Connection preamp? I'm really dating myself now, but I used to have one of those for a while, and it was a weird device with like this 5-position mid knob on it and stuff. But Lee Jackson was a modder back in the day, that Marshall amp mod guy that people talked about a lot. And anyway, the Perfect Connection, that was around for a little bit. There's pictures of Zakk Wylde. There's an ad where Zakk Wylde had a rack full of them, and he was endorsing it for like 5 minutes or something, you know. But that was interesting. I used to run that into like the effect return of a Marshall MOSFET head that I had, and used that for a second. That and the ADA is interesting stuff, but I don't have an ADA here, so they should reissue that thing like in a pedal or something, you know, like pedal board MP1. There's a product. Somebody do that. Make it again. I don't know. Some people will use it, I'm sure. Okay, I'm taking too long here. Sorry, moving down. Get that Sir Aura yet, says Matt. No, there's one there hanging on the wall that every time that I go, it's, you know, not finished yet. Every time I go out there, John says, "Oh, that one's yours." So he keeps threatening, but he's got to, you know, he's got to get guitars in the hands of dealers that have ordered them and been waiting for them. So, greetings from the Netherlands, says Ray. What's up, Ray? Hello, good day, everyone. He says. Let's see, moving down. Jack says, enjoyed the live stream the other night. Ben Coombs. Did Ben Coombs have a live stream? Carl Mangan strings. What's the hype? Yeah, I don't know anything about those strings. I think I might have bought a set every now, like years and years ago, but I don't know who makes those strings. Pete, if you chose a 5-pack of Slush and IRs, what would you choose? A lot of options, says Keith. That's a great question. I would get for sure some of the greenbacks in the 412. I would get open back 212 blues, and in a closed back 412. You kind of need V30s greenbacks. Open back 212 with the 65s is nice for, you know, if there's any Robin Ford aficionados or Dumble heads out there, that kind of thing. That's nice for those tones. Very different sound. A-type. Celestion A-type, which I did a review of on my channel, is a great speaker for a warm top end and clean tones. It sounds kind of like a greenback in a way. So when pushed, and in a 412, but like a warm greenback. But for clean sounds and stuff like that, it's a really nice speaker anytime you want to take the fizz off of a sound. So if you've got something that's got a little edge or fizz in it that you don't like, try the A-type. So greenbacks, V30s in 412, A-type 65s in an open back 212, I would say, is a really nice thing to have. And blues in an open back 212, really nice thing to have. Right there, you've kind of got it mostly covered. I think that's 5. You should have a nice range of clean to dirty there. Rented is up in the top chat. Thank you, sir. He contributed to the top chat. He says, hey, Pete, any tips on managing a post-master volume effects loop? Post-master volume effects loop. Turning up the master volume distorts the effects in the loop. Okay, yeah. And fiddling with the send and return loop pops on stage is time consuming. What I would say is just turn the return up as much as you can, and then just leave it that way, so that you've got headroom on your master, right? If you turn up the return on the amp as much, just dime it, you know. It's just like, if you feel like you're always running out of headroom, you need that headroom in the back end. So go ahead and just bring up the return, and then hopefully that gets you in the range where now you're not gonna have to worry about, you know, and, you know, find the spot on that master volume that's pushing into the effects. Find the spot where it wants to distort when that return is cranked, and then don't go beyond that. Know that that's your limit as far as pushing into your effects. If there's a way to set your effects ahead of, I mean, it probably isn't. I'm sure you've investigated it, but if there's a way to set your effects so that they're not, you know, so that you've got more headroom, then do that too. Like on an H9, you can change the level and, you know, dial it in. But that would be my number one thing, is dial in the return so that you've just got tons of, you know, as much headroom as possible so that you can not have to push that send up so far. And Robert's up in the top chat. Thanks, man. He's Robert Apple. He's contributed up there. I appreciate it. You guys are too kind. The Hoppo is in the top chat, and he's from Britain. And he says, hey, Pete, did Sir come back to you last week about dead spot? Yes, he did. Dead spots on a fretboard and what causes them and how to fix them. That's a great question, because I didn't get to answer it last week because he didn't hit me back. He said it's out of phase resonances. So when the wood is resonating, you know, out of phase with the note that you're playing. And he says that all guitars have them. It's just a question of how much and how, you know, but that's what it is. So I thought that was interesting. And let's see. I think that covers everybody that's up in the top chat right now. Thanks, folks, for doing that. I appreciate it. And I hope that answers. Oh, somebody else is up there. Jared's in the top chat. Jared Glaspie Music. Thank you, sir. What's the story on the new Wilkinson trim that you're using on the PT Signature model? It's a bridge that Trev was working on for a long time, and it's do you mean like kind of you want more information about it, or is it available? I believe they're rolling them out on the guitars now and stuff like that, and that's what they're using, as well as if you want to contact Don, D-O-N, at sir.com, he can help you further if you've got a PT guitar and you want one of those bridges on it. Or if you've got an order pending or something like that, and that's the bridge you want. But anyway, essentially what it is it's very much like a 510 Godot style bridge. It's just got a little special saddle on it with a little Allen screw that the string passes under, and you lock that Allen screw down, and it locks the string into the bridge, and you stay in tune almost as good as if you had a Floyd Rose on the guitar, and it's pretty incredible. I've gotten so used to it that now when I play a guitar that doesn't have it, it's like, oh God, like it's a struggle, because it stays in tune so well that I'm getting accustomed to it, and I love it so much. So it's a great thing. Thanks very much for going up there in the top chat, guys. Appreciate that, contributing to that. And what else we got here? What else? I emailed Don asking. He said we have no information. And that was 2 weeks ago. All right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to talk to him, and I'm going to tell him that's not an answer, because that frustrates me. That would be the answer that you got back from him. It doesn't make sense to me, to be honest, and it's becoming a little bit of a thing, because time goes by and I want to know what's, I don't know. I'm gonna send him a text right now. So just give me 2 seconds here, guys. Just so you guys see me doing this right now. Dawn, what is the deal with offering the new bridge on PT signature guitars? ? We need to have a policy moving forward that is set in stone, and I'm just curious what is happening. Let's see what he says. He's a great guy. I love Don, by the way, but I don't want to get our lines crossed and stuff like that. This is enough times gone by where it's like months and months have gone by. We got to have a standard thing, because I thought they were just transitioning into offering the that's like the main bridge and stuff, and that they had something set up. So, okay. Moving down, Jim, did I get your question, Jim? Jim's up in the top chat. Jim, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. And now I've lost my place. Uh-oh, a lull. I'm looking for a good question here. There we go. Cato says, do you ever jam with friends completely through the interface with a drum track, bass, vocals, and guitar, all with amp and vocal plugins coming through the monitors? Thoughts on the best way to run this? No, I haven't. You want to do bass, vocals, and guitar with plugins coming through the interface. Thoughts on the best way to do this? Well, you could do that pretty easily using a Universal Audio Apollo, but all using plugins, huh? It's like, I guess you could do it. I mean, like, the only problem is, yeah, you can switch things through MIDI, and it just seems like the easier thing to do if you want to kind of do that sort of setup might be using like simple modelers or something for guitar. I don't know. Like trying to run a whole band through an interface with modeling plugins. How do you change sounds on your guitar? You use pedals? I mean, I guess that would work. And playing to drum tracks and stuff, but it might be easier if you just had something like a little, like a Helix or something like that for guitar and bass and stuff, and then you were just all running into the interface. Might be easier than dialing in sounds, because it's like, what if it's like, well, I want more treble. Now it's like, oh, I got to get over to the screen and go, where's the track with the guitar amp plug-in? And you know what I mean? Wouldn't it be easier if everybody had their own individual little sort of station set up, and then just everything's running into the interface, and it's just serving as like a conduit, I don't know, would seem to me. Patrick says he currently uses Lee Jackson M1000 power amps with the Helix and loves it. I remember those. Yeah. And greetings from Renault. Thanks for all you do for the community. Pizza, Josh. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Alvin's talking about his Boss octave pedal. He says he loves the tones. I got a text back from let's see. Pete, have you seen the new Rockboard 2019 gear pedal boards? It's posted on their site. I have not. That's from Braxall. I like the Rockboard pedal boards, though. They have an interesting sort of system of modular patch bay, where you can pick your patch bay depending on whether you do more sort of acoustic gigs or electric guitar or whatever kind of pedal, however your pedal board's configured. They make these great patch bays that have, combinations of XLR jacks and 1/4-inch jacks and MIDI. So if anybody's looking for a cool pedal board, look at the Rockboard stuff, because they're doing some neat things. What's that for a Marshall in the background? The Marshall back there is a 71 GMP 50. And just a cool 50 watt, interesting sounding. It's got a lot of edge, a lot of gain, typically gainy, I guess. Robert says, will you be doing a video about your new amp at NAMM or when you get back? There'll be something coming out this week that we've been working on. Yeah, not exactly sure the form the video is going to take because we shot a lot of stuff, and it's just like, well, we got to get it edited into something for Thursday. But it'll give you the idea anyway. There'll be enough coming out that you'll get a good idea of what the tones and the capabilities and all that good stuff are, as well as the look and the features and stuff. So Thursday, that'll all happen. Maybe even late Wednesday. Who knows? Quentin says, Eric from EVH Gear TV says, hey, hi, Eric. Looking forward to seeing you in Anaheim. Cool. Yeah, I'll see you guys down there for sure. I shall be there. Okay. Mr. Holy Rider says, greetings from Germany. Probably asked 1,000 times before, but what's your favorite lunchbox tube top? Well, I'll have my favorite smaller low power amp coming out this week. I wouldn't say it's lunchbox, but it's definitely my favorite. It's not far off from, it's not like a massive thing, that's for sure. Mark says, which UAD plugins do you recommend using alongside the UAD amp plugins? I bought all the UAD amp plugins and wonder which plugins I should get next. That's Mark. He's up in the top chat. Thanks, Mark, for doing that. Some of my favorites are definitely the LA2A, which I think comes with it anyway, but it's incredible on bass and vocals and great on acoustic guitar and just sounds beautiful and luscious. I use it's great to have a great limiter, so it's sort of a boring plugin, but you need it. So the precision limiter is great for the end of the chain. I used the Manly variable MU big sort of mix bus compressor on something last night. It just sounds so good. That's a great one. SSL bus compressor is undeniably a great thing to have. Say SSL G series G bus. Also a channel strip plugin, something like the SSL G channel strip, or is it E channel strip? I can't remember. I think it's the E, but it's got compression, gating, EQ, mic pre, all that stuff in it. So either that one or the API. I remember the name of the API one, but the API channel strip, that's great too. Neve 1073 mic pre. That new Century Tube channel strip is a great thing. So simple to use and sounds great. So that's another good UA plugin. But they make so much cool stuff. I mean, Echoplex and Tri-Chorus, like specifically, some cool guitar related things. I love the Millennia EQ. It's a stereo, kind of mastering, mixing EQ that's great for mix bus and getting nice polish on your mix bus. So that's a great thing. Yeah. Okay. What's the most significant gear we'll be looking at NAMM 2019, says Javier, sorry, God. That's my problem, Javier. What's the most significant gear we'll be looking at? My amp. You got to see my amp. Come on now. See what else? That Roland Waza tube amp expander thing looks pretty cool. I definitely want to see that. That looks exciting. Not sure what else. Let's see what else folks have to offer. I don't have any leads on anything else really. And Alvin says he levels his own frets on every guitar he owns. Man, it's a big job. I bought all the stuff once to do it, and then I did one, and I was like, this isn't for me. So that's cool if you can do that. Oscillation Overdrives has I have no idea what dead spots are. I never experienced this. It's when you're kind of playing and somewhere on the neck you'll find a spot that, and it tends to happen around here a lot. I don't know why, but this one's a little not too bad on this guitar, but anyway, every now and then you find like one fret that's like, when the note just kind of dies. And every note's like dung, 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 dung. That's what a dead spot sounds like. It just kind of vanishes. There's no sustain. And as somebody was asking about it last week, and basically I asked Sir, and he said that it's when there's a out of phase resonance. So the note you're playing resonates at a certain pitch just because it does. That's physics or whatever. And then the guitar wood is, so yeah. Okay. Cheers, guys. Got drives and reverb in a tuner. Looking for delay and flanger, says Rick. Delay and flanger. Man, I did a great... Do you guys see the Yakotopia video? If you guys haven't watched it yet, check this one out. I did it yesterday. This thing is so great sounding. So I heard this at the Guitar Summit in Mannheim, Germany. I was walking by their booth, and it sounded so good. I was just blown away with the tone and this luscious stereo thing, with huge spread and stuff. And so what the deal is with this is that it's a 4-head tape-style delay, and there's a knob for each head. So what you get is like a 16th note tap, an 8th note, dotted 8th, and a quarter. So all those subdivisions of time, and then you can just bring them up individually. And it's really brilliant because they're all spread like left to right across the stereo spectrum. You get this, kind of like, delay thing going where it's like, they're bouncing around. And when you start to play, and you can just tap in your quarter note tempo, and then you've got all the subdivisions on. And you just mix them in as, if you just want a quarter note, you can get that, although it's going to be panned to one side. Unless you run it in mono, then it'll be dead center. But anyway, the effect is addicting, and you'll hear it in the video if it just sounds amazing. And it's got nice modulation in it, as well as kind of a dark rolled off character. There's this mood knob that affects the tone of the delay, but it also affects the oscillation. So as it gets brighter, kind of more open, the delay starts to oscillate and feedback and stuff. And then you can darken it up and mellow it out a little bit. So you can actually max out the feedback and turn the delay way up, and it won't go into total oscillation and chaos. So it's very controllable, in other words, is what I'm saying. But it just sounds like it's just a really, really beautiful sounding delay for your ambient needs. Yeah. And Banana says, remember to like and subscribe. Yeah, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'd much appreciate it. Almost at 150, so I'd love to get to 150,000 soon. And yeah, please hit the thumbs up if you haven't, if you're digging it. I really appreciate it. Floating tremolo or tremolo sitting on body. I've decided that what I like in a vintage style trem, or even the Wilkinson one, is what I like is to be able to pull up a whole step on the G string. If I can pull up a whole step, then that loosely sort of translates to a half step on the B string. And so when you're soloing, you can get some defined kind of pitches close enough anyway with the, I know Scott Henderson does, I believe a minor third, I think, is his pull up on the G string. And so in order to get that, you really need some angle on that. And that's the Jeff Beck thing too, like a lot of angle. That's how I have my old Strat set up. But I think I prefer just the whole step. That works good for me. And then the bridge it's what that translates to is generally it's just a little more angled than flush with the body, and I don't know, there's something about the whole bridge kind of like this to me that is, I just don't, maybe it's like I'm OCD or something. It visually looks weird to me, but anyway. Okay, let's see. Dead spot is a note in a particular string and fret that is lower in volume or doesn't sound. That's right. Towoof said that. That's essentially what it is. And Sir says the reason is because the wood is sort of resonating out of phase with that particular pitch. Just on that note. Oh, I see. So Adam says, I have an email from Dawn. This is about the Sir Bridge, the Wilkinson situation, that said they don't have info on when you can put that trem on other guitars besides the PT Signature. That's right, because we got a bunch of them allotted just for my guitars, because I went to them and I kind of spearheaded like with the Sir and the Wilkinson thing, I spearheaded getting them over. I was like, look, we need this bridge. I want this bridge on my guitar. Like, and I was very, very, adamant about it. And then Trev was contacting me and says, Pete, we'll try as hard as we can to get as many, and that sort of thing. So it's like, I feel like, okay, dibs on my guitar. I want this thing as a, because one of the things about my guitar is that, and it's a valid criticism, I think, that could be made, is that why couldn't I just spec out a guitar like that from Sir and just, it's like, and it's kind of true. It's like there wasn't anything on it that I guess you couldn't have just spec'd out. The reality is I spec'd it out as a custom standard. It's got some unique specs on it, but it's like, so I wanted something in particular for sure that was like, okay, well, at least this bridge sets my guitar apart from anything else for a minute that's in the line. Not always going to be that way. You're going to be able to get that bridge, I'm sure. But he can only make so many as he's rolling it out, It just came out a year ago at NAMM and it wasn't even ready for production yet then. So anyway, Esmond says, I really liked your demo of the CKK Anka pedal. Do you still have it and use it? I do have it. I haven't used it for a while, as is my, because of my my job with like demoing and coming up with videos for things and stuff like that. It's hard sometimes because I got a lot of new stuff to move on to. So, and then whatever gets on my board, there's only like enough room for 11 or 12 pedals or something. So, but the Anka's cool. CKK is, the guy knocks it out of the park as far as, incredible, distortions. I mean, what's in the number 5 distortion? Has everybody seen that? It's a really amazing pedal. It makes a great envelope follower, great chorus and reverb in one small pedal. CKK is this. It's a little confusing because it's like Sinvertech and CKK, same company. I don't really understand why some pedals are called CKK and other ones are Sinvertech, but okay. Moving on. I'm gonna find my place here because I got a little lost in the chat. Sorry. Let's see. Well, I'm just going to start right here. Jake says, this looks like a good question. Jake Stewart Music says, what are your thoughts on minimalist guitar rigs as a professional sideman? Do you know anyone who plays sideman gigs with just a guitar and cranked amp? Seems like most have large rigs. Well, it's just the nature of the sideman kind of thing. It depends what kind of sideman you are, I guess, and what the gig is. It's always really gig dependent. I can't think of anybody that's got a really tiny rig. I do know plenty of guys these days that are using nothing but a Helix. My friend that plays with Jennifer Lopez, Andy, that his rig comes to mind. I actually hooked him up with line 6 and he ended up getting a Helix, running it through Deluxe Reverb for a while, but then he just moved to the Helix. I think it's all direct now, so that's maybe a minimalist rig, even though there's 4 million options in those things. But just guitar and amp, I know what you mean. I mean, if you get a gig with the Black Crowes or something, or something like that. I guess they're not a band anymore, but if something like that, you know what I'm saying. It would dictate that you don't need to bring that much stuff. So it's always all about whatever the gig is. I'm sure there's examples out there of people that are working as sidemen that don't have very much stuff. If it's a minimalist gig, Americana kind of gig, something where you just need a few pedals. The reality is, I think most guitar players these days, though, are geeks. If they're good guitar players, it seems like they've all got a cool little pedal board, and they've got like a few things on there that are. I saw a band playing a club like a couple of weeks ago, just a beer bar, and the guy's board was as big as mine, probably bigger. And I was just like, does everybody do this now? Like everybody, no matter what the gig, they've all got their crazy. It's fun, I guess. It's that's what we're here doing. So. Elfcott Music says Music Zoo is advertising the new Sir Reactive Load IR. Yeah, they're out there. They've shipped a ton of them. Any European gigs lined up in the pipeline, says Richard. I'd love to go back and do some more clinics, that's for sure. That's kind of my, if I'm gigging, it's the clinic gigging these days. And now with the new amp coming and stuff like that, there's probably going to be hopefully more demand for that and stuff. So I'd love to get over to Europe this year and do that. Nothing lined up right now, but the things tend to come together like 2 months out. So maybe 3, you know. So as we get into the new year and stuff like that, this is always a weird time as far as work and I'm always like, what am I going to do all year? And then like come January and February, all this stuff starts rolling in because everybody's shut down for, you know, over the holidays, and they go into NAMM and all that. And then once that's done, you know, both the music business and the musical instrument business kind of like there's a little lull there for a bit. So we'll see what the new year brings. Let's see. Any chance your signature guitar will come out with a roasted maple neck? Well, probably not, because we've been doing the mahogany thing, and it's just a thing, you know, so I would have to come out with something completely different. I am having a guitar built, though, that's going to be, it's roasted bird's eye, 5A bird's eye, Sir Classic with a humbucker and 2 singles. It's candy apple red with a tortoise pickguard and cream single coils pitcher, and a roasted bird's eye neck, and it's going to be badass. And so I had John digitize my old mid 80s Charvel Jackson neck, and so it's going to be that neck. And you know, I can't wait to see how close the neck turns out to the Jackson neck that I've had since I was a kid. And it's going to have the new Wilkinson bridge on it and stuff like that. So it's going to be really, really cool kind of hot rod guitar that I'm sure I'll end up playing a lot. You know, us guys we've got the, like Thornley's got his Sir signature, but he's always getting classics too. You know, it's hard to get away from the Strat thing sometimes. It's like if you grew up playing that and the super Strat, it's, you know, with 2 singles and a Strat body and stuff. I don't know. It's just cool. So anyway, that's coming soon. And I can't wait to get that guitar. Let's see here. Yeah, Alvin says, never tried the Kemper, but I sat with Gary Holt from Exodus last year, and he uses it on the road, keeps his vintage jams at home. Yeah, many people have gone to the Kemper setup on the road. You know, I think that there's certainly something to be said if you're making a record and you've got a bunch of amps in there and you get a tone and dial it in and it sounds great. You track it and then you profile that sound into your Kemper, and then you can go back later and you've sort of got that tone right from the record or something like that. There's something to be said for it, you know. It's definitely, I get it, you know. It's like, and they're just, when bands are traveling, you know, from Europe to Australia to America to Japan to, you know, the realities of touring these days. Chris Cornell said something really interesting to me. He called me the day that they were playing the Temple of the Dog show at the LA Forum, which was December 2016, I think, or November 2016. And he called me and said, hey, do you want to come down to the show? And I was he says, we're playing tonight. You know, you can come down if you want to. And I was in Marseille, France. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I'd love to go see the show. I can't go because I'm in France. And he's like, oh, I guess that means you won't be here tonight. But I said, how's it going? Because I hadn't talked to him for a little while at that point. And he goes, well, it's great. He's like, we've, you know, done a bunch of gigs or whatever. But they only booked 7 Temple of the Dog shows on that run. He goes, you know, in retrospect, he goes, we should have done like so many more of these, because the reality is it costs so much to gear up and tour and rehearse, you know, rehearsals and all the people that you employ. You sort of build like a whole, you know, it's like this whole machine. You got to put it into action in order to go out on a tour. So you hire all your techs and everybody, you know, comes aboard, and there's lawyers involved and legal stuff that needs to be worked out with the event. So you spend all this money to get geared up, and then to only do 7 shows is like, you just got this whole machine going. And then it's like, you know, there's no reason to do, you just do more and you'll make some money coming back. To only do 7, you know, in other words, all the legwork and everything that goes into a tour, you know, why not continue it on for maybe conceivably? So it's good to, you know, it's a good return on investment. So is the point. It just costs so much. And he made the good point that, you know, there's less money being made in music. I remember him saying, like, you know, there's, you know, we're not making as much, like obviously selling records and stuff like that, but all the other people, the lawyers and the, you know, the production company, everybody's still charging the same, if not more than they always were. It's like the economy is, you know, whatever, inflation, things happen. And he goes, and yet our business is shrinking, you know? So he was just saying that he wished they'd done more shows. But essentially what I'm thinking about is that's the reality of it these days, is all these other costs are still increasing. So I get it with touring, why Metallica and why, you know, with the Axe Effects and they sound great, and the Kemper sounds great, and it works good. And it's like, if you can save $40,000 here and $50,000 there on freight costs and stuff like that, it's a huge factor in keeping that machine on the road and stuff. And so, you know, there's costs as well as consistency and all that stuff. So we're still trying to keep the tube amps alive out there, though, with the, you know, trying to offer something that makes it still make sense. Jack Bird is in the top chat. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that for doing the top chat. He says, guitars and gear are like Lay's potato chips. You can't have one. It's true. Keep on rocking. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. 521 people online. That's awesome. Thanks for being here, you guys. And I'm stoked to be here. Do you practice legato much, says Newman? I generally don't even practice that much anymore, which isn't because I don't want to. It's just like when I find myself practicing, it's because I'm working and I'm sitting down to learn something. I'm either writing a part for like a video I'm making, or maybe I'm learning a song for doing something, and then I'm bearing down, and that's practice, you know. But to just sit and play, God, I really want to do more of it. So I've just moved to a new home, and one thing I really want to do is have my practice rig dialed in at home. Simple recording, like as simple as it gets, recording and practice rig, where I can just sit down, turn on and play guitar in the morning for an hour while I make a cup of espresso or whatever, sit there in my bathrobe. You know, I got to get that. I just have a dream of that being a reality, and it's not, you know, with the guitar on a stand plugged in and I can walk out and, you know, just turn it on and have a beautiful sound, and like, you know, and then I'll practice more, I think. And then I'll go to the gym. That's the second part of the dream. And then I'll take a shower and eventually go to work around 11:30. Let's make that happen. Here's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to do it. Let's see. Chris Cam says, guys, what do you think of sitting on Pete's divided by 13 cab on the left? I'll just show you. It's actually not what you think. That Comet head actually is sitting there. But there is a couple cool things I can show you here. Let me give my friend Turkey B a plug here. You guys ever try these or see these? The grease juicer. So these were sitting on there. So this is a really fun pedal. What the grease juicer is an envelope follower and fuzz in the same pedal. And the fuzz comes first. So the fuzz, then the envelope follower. Now you would say to yourself, okay, but a fuzz makes a real square wave sound. So an envelope follower is like an Ottawa. Wow. So if you got a square wave going into that, it's going to like just be kind of boring, because it's going to open up the envelope and you're not going to get any. But the trick in these is that he figured out a way to do the whole Bootsy Collins style setup in a pedal, which is basically Bootsy used a combination of different things to get this to happen. But what it amounts to is a side chain, so that if you've got a fuzz in front of a envelope follower, you still want the envelope follower to see the direct signal from the bass or the guitar. This is it. The reason there's two is there's a guitar and a bass version that are optimized for guitar or bass. So in other words, the side chain sees the direct signal from the guitar, the dynamic signal coming from the guitar before it hits the fuzz, and that's what the envelope follower is responding to. And what that amounts to is you end up getting this dramatic with, you know, with the fuzz and the envelope follower and everything really responding the way that it's supposed to, with this crazy, really dramatic, you know. And you plug it in, it's just a ton of fun. It's like you turn the thing on, it's just this expressive, you know, dirty. It's gnarly and dirty, and that's why it's called the grease juicer. You know, it's just like a you got knobs on there labeled sizzle, grease, juice, and sensitivity. Yeah, it's great sounding pedal. So grease juicer video of that'll be coming pretty soon. Yeah, El Scott Music says, I dream of the Manly Core. Want to make that my vocal channel strip. Manly's a great company. They make some really cool stuff. Certainly both plugins and the real stuff. For recording, this is great. For bedroom solo recording, do I need the UAD quad, or is the Duo good enough? It's good for just like simple stuff. The Duo's fine. When you get into using a lot of UA plugins on a mix, that's when you'll need the quad. So like I've actually got 8 cores because I've got my old UA Apollo hooked up here, and then I actually have a satellite. So I guess I have 12 cores if I need them. But that would be, I don't generally find I need more than 8 for me. 4 is great for like doing like, if you've got like, 12 tracks of music recorded, like a nice demo or something like that, and you're using UA plugins on a majority of the tracks, you'll probably max it out at the 4 with the 4 cores. The 2 cores, so it depends on the plugins you're using, because like, for example, Ocean Way Studios, which is an incredible plugin that UA makes, that's kind of a room simulation. It simulates the rooms at Ocean Way Studio, uses a ton of, like, it'll use half of 1 core. That's in my experience. So at that point, then you can only get 5 or 6 other plugins going, and then you're maxed. So, but the Duo is great. I have a Duo Apollo Duo, or what, like the the little guy. That's what I have at home, and it works fine. I'll use that with a satellite if I need more juice at home for plugins and stuff. Somebody's up in the top chat. It's Travis. Thank you, Travis. He says, my wife just gave me my allowance. Why'd you give me your allowance, dude? You don't have to do that. You should have, I don't know, gone out and, but anyway, you're too kind, my friend. Thank you. Thanks, Travis. He says, I thought I'd share some of it with you. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Thank you for spending your day with me. I appreciate it. I do. Visual Guy says, compared the Thornbuckers on my channel to several high-end PAFs, they really sounded good. Nice job on those. Is there a video of that, Visual Guy? I'd love to see it. I'd love to go listen. Let's all go watch Visual Guy's video that he made, Thornbuckers and PAFs. I want to hear that. See what they sound like in your demo comparo. Moving down. Any thoughts on Caitlin bread pedals? I've only tried a few. That's from Stealth Parrot. I tried a fuzz they made that sounded, or it was like a high gain distortion fuzz kind of pedal, and it sounded great. I wish I could remember the name, but it was kind of like a mustard yellow color. Best tubes for a bassman, says Leon. What type of bassman is it? Is it like a bassman head or a 410 bassman? I would use this like 5881 of some sort in a 410 bassman. That would be my recommendation for a good solid, probably just those, honestly, the Sovtech 5881s or something. They're so reliable. They always have been. They just seem like they're bulletproof and last a long time, and they universally sort of recognized as a pretty good sounding tube. Yeah. Let's see. David says, Pete, I heard a track from your record, Top Hard Rock, Real Attitude. Thank you. Did you miss your coffee? No, I have coffee. Let's see. Cyclic says, could you build like an all-around presets clean crunch high gain for the HX Stomp Helix Fractal AX8 for live use and sell them on your website? Yeah, I mean, that sounds like actually kind of a cool project to tackle. Like, okay, I'm going to take this week and make presets for, the Axe effects and for the Helix and Helix Stomp and AX8 and stuff, and then put them up for sale. I mean, I would do that at some point. I would, kind of like just dial in each unit and come up with some presets. Yeah, I mean, if I've got a slow week this year, maybe that'll be the thing I do, because it seemed like it would be a good business move, doesn't it? I guess if people are asking for them. Yeah. Alvin says he hates lugging a half stack around to play places. Well, I have something for you soon that's very reasonable. Very, very reasonable. New PT signature colors at NAMM, says Chris. He's wondering if there will be. I wanted to get that together for NAMM, but we were so focused on the amp and stuff. So there is something else coming that we've got in the works, but it's not going to be at the show. But later, like pretty soon after, actually, I'll have some new, because I want to keep the colors going. And Jimmy likes that. Yeah. So what you're trying to say is we're cooking. Yeah. Let's see here. Heading over to the Helix Hour. Is that a thing? The Helix Hour. Who does that? Don't go. Don't go to the Helix Hour. Stay here. I'm sorry, Helix Hour. Don't mean to pull away viewers if you do something at the same time as me. Dan Anthony says, I'm finally getting my chops back. I haven't played in 5 months, but the last 3 weeks I have. Never again. Sometimes a break is good, though, you know? Sometimes a break is a good thing. Strymon Volante thoughts. You know, I have had no time to even look at that thing, but it does look cool, and I will go by their booth and check it out. Strymon always hits it out of the park, so I'm sure it's probably pretty cool. Moving down. Let's see. Never noticed dead spots in a real amp myself, but I have through a modeler. Well, that could be a reflection of, you know, if you're playing a modeler through studio monitors or low volume or something, or if you play a real amp through a speaker, you've got that interaction with the guitar, and you know, it's a more clinical thing playing at a lower volume through a monitor rig or whatever with a modeler. Playing through an amp, you're gonna have the benefit of the feedback loop with the guitar a bit more, and that organic, you know, which is something that's why we all love amps still. It's just something about it. It's like, oh yeah, this feels like, you know, like a complete instrument, right? Like less like a simulation of the amp portion, and more like a complete instrument, you know. So there's always something to be said for playing through a cabinet with a traditional amp, and the tubes and everything's responding, and the guitar and the pickups, and it's that big feedback loop cycle. Everything's working good. Just found a new wah-wah sound for me. I stepped on my dog's tail. So, oh, that's terrible, says Mr. Tresovic. Okay. Moving down. Looking for a question here. Everybody's talking amongst themselves, so it's hard sometimes to find one, but I'm not discouraging that. Of course you guys should. Have you ever used Roland V drums with a live drummer into Superior Drummer? How did you get everything to work? Well, that would be a drummer thing. I would leave that up to them to figure out. That's their instrument. Have them figure it out. No, I haven't. I did use, the first time I ever played with a drummer that used Roland V drums live, it was the weirdest experience, I swear, because you're so used to just hearing an acoustic kick and snare behind you, you know, and that there's where the drums are and you can hear them, and it's like no matter what, with no monitors or anything, and the guy with V drums, you know, and then, you know, all of a sudden it's like all about the monitors. I'm like, all the drums is coming in my face, and I'm like, I hear nothing coming from back there. It was a very like trying to get the mix was, it just was uncomfortable. But you know, I'm sure it's just a matter of getting used to it and dialing it in. But you are, of course, completely reliant on the monitors. Then there's not the acoustic thing on stage, which is the other thing about a guitar amp, right? That's the thing about what we were just talking about, the organic thing of just, I mean, I remember doing a gig once at the LA Forum for a Kings game where I played in the halftime, and they rolled a stage out on the ice, and we were really playing. We weren't faking like we were playing, you know, mics and everything, and drums, bass, guitar, piano. I was playing with Fight for Fighting, and I had an AC30 or something, and the drums, and I remember there's a wedge, but they couldn't get the monitors working at the gig, and I was like, I don't need a monitor. I can hear the piano; it's right there. I can hear the, you know, the drums are right here. I know how the song goes, and I got my amp right behind me, so I just, you know, played, and it was like, it didn't matter, you know. It was like, well, the monitors didn't work, but nobody cares because it all worked, you know. The beauty of that, having just an amp and the drummer and a bass player with actual amps, and everything works. And I don't know, it's when all else fails, you just listen to one another and everything's cool. Sometimes the simplest is the best. Oscillation Overdrive says, saw your video a couple days ago on the Ecotopia, and it does sound really amazing. It's a great twist on the effect. Really great delay, unique. First, you know, one of those things where you just hear it when it turns on, you go, whoa, that sounds great. And that's what I did the first time I heard it in Germany. And I said, I got to get one of those, and they sent me one to demo. So have you ever made a demo of the DoD 250 or the like? No, I should. I would love to do that. The Ingve thing through a Marshall. DoD 250 is sort of the, you know, the ugly little stepsister or something of overdrives, but like a great sound. You know, it was just never as popular as a you know, a SD1 or a TS 808 or whatever, TS9. Pete, what do you think of roasted necks? I like them. It's David Smith. Definitely like them. They make the necks more stable in my experience, and they look cool. You know, I like the look. Let's see. Wish they made a PRS that had a neck that felt good to me. You know, I played a couple that felt great at the GitCon conference recently. That's from Dan Anthony. He's asking about PRS necks. This one I played, you see the fellow named Mike Bradley play it a lot in his videos from that. It was a really, really nice feeling neck. I played it a little bit actually, maybe with Andy. I did a video with Andy, it sounded great. Played great. Nice PRS actually. So, getting over a cold. I'm on the you know, the uptick, the upswing. Okay, I'm going to try and answer a bunch here quickly. Let's see. Chris says, hey, Pete, my 7-year-old is playing guitar and is watching the live chat with me. Can you say what's up, Brandon? What's up, Brandon? We need new guitar players, buddy. You got to do it, man. Play that guitar and listen to your dad, Chris. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah. Tours in 2019. I don't know yet. There's a couple, you know, irons in the fire, but like I say, it's still all speculation at this point. So we'll see. Let's see. Just picked up your new album on iTunes. Sounds great. Says Amadio. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for getting it. I appreciate that. Hope I said your name right. I think I did. Braxall says, do you think I have to have my acoustics set up again if I switch from 12 gauge to 11 gauge? It really depends. Just give it a try and see. Hopefully all you need to do is nothing, but maybe you need a little truss rod loosening, quarter turn, maybe, if, you know, the 11 gauge, if you notice like fretting out or anything like that on the lower, a little bit too much buzz, maybe, you know. Leon says Scott Henderson gets a major third on the G. Is it a major third? Maybe you're right. We're talking about now bending up the trem, right? Yeah. So bending up the trem, Scott sets his guitars up for major third on the G. I thought it was minor, but maybe it's, I think that's right. That makes more sense. Major third, which requires a real angle on the bridge. Let's see. Aaron wants to know, Fender American Original 50s Telly or American Vintage 52 Telly? Are there any major differences other than fretboard radius? Probably not. I would probably go with the original 50s Telly. That's the one with the 9.5, right? Go with the one that's got a little more playability, you know, a little less the vintage radius thing. Do you use any lubrication in the nut slots? Yes, I use the Diodario stuff quite often. And Big Ben's nut sauce as well, in nut slots on, especially on Gibson style guitars. Necessary, 100%. You need it. I recommend it. Don't need it in my Surs though, because they have the tusk nuts and straight string pull. And, yeah. Amazing delay. Yeah, the Ecotopia, I'm sure you're referring to. Sounds great. Terrific sounding delay. Bought the Eventide H9 after watching your gear demo, says Mickey. Awesome pedal. Thank you, sir. What about a Floyd, says Mike. I like Floyd Roses sometimes. Dead spot that is not alive. Dead, says Leo. That's funny. Let's see. Moving down. Let's see. Do you like that new Gotho Wilkinson 6-point bridge? Goto, you mean? It's a Wilkinson 6-point bridge. I haven't seen the one that you're talking about in particular. Maybe I did see something about it now that you mentioned. I got to go look. I got to go do a little bit of maintenance here. There, I'm just gonna hide that guy. Got a weird troll in the chat. Got rid of him. And now I've lost my place, of course, after doing that. Okay. I'll try and keep the questions going here. Hello from the UK, says Ted. Are you ever going to tackle pickup demos from other companies? I'm sure that Sir wouldn't mind. You know, I wouldn't mind doing like a big shootout or something like that with a whole bunch of different ones. And especially single coils. I can do single coils for sure. You know, I could do demos of single coils. I don't think that'd be a problem. I don't get a lot of requests for that. It's a complicated thing doing pickup demos because, you know, like they send you the pickups, you got to get them put in. There's a charge for that, generally speaking. And then you pull them out. Like, what do you do? You know, it's just like this complicated. It's not like doing a pedal where you just plug it in, done, right? So, anyways, let's see. What was the delay pedal you talked about 20 minutes ago? The Pigtronics. That's Lauren. No, I think I was talking about this one, the Ecotopia from Crazy Tube Circuits. Excuse me. Greetings from the Netherlands, says Ben Jard. I only realize now I saw you live in 2007 with Chris Cornell at the Lowlands Festival. I remember that one. Yeah, I did that. Great gig. Thank you, sir. Hey, Pete, do you start to recognize some of the regular names that come every week, says Odin Stan. Yes, of course. You and Raxol and Old Guys V, Guitar Log, and Chris Cam. And I'm just seeing some names here that I recognize. You guys, I really appreciate you all coming, being loyal and showing up every Sunday. It's fun. It's our Sunday gang. When you use a wireless, do you have a favorite? The Sures have been great in Japan, not a single dropout. I used AKG for a long time. It's a great sounding system, but I had occasional dropouts, and it's just a little quirky. The Sures are really terrific. The ULXD is the one I was using. It's kind of a half rack thing. It's not their super high end one, but I think they're like $1,200 or $1,500 or something for a half rack one. And that seems flawless. And in Japan, it worked great. And Japan's a high, you know, traffic kind of, you know, as far as the frequencies and stuff. So I recommend that. Line 6 G75 I have around somewhere for a pedal board based one. Terrific. Sounds great. Seemed like a big upgrade over some of the previous like G50 that I had, or G30 or something that I had. That was I had some problems with dropouts and stuff many years ago. So, but the G75 one seemed really good as far as an inexpensive one. So I like those. You know, on tour you need one that has a many times on big tours you need something that has a selectable frequency where you can dial in. I need the 631.25 band. You know, you actually have to dial in right to a specific frequency. So something like the Line 6 wouldn't work for that because they only give you the, you know, certain number of selectable channels on a, you know, and you don't know exactly what the frequencies are or whatever. The big tours, they define like, there's sometimes a person that's employed on the tour and their whole job is wireless. That's it. And their job is to give people frequencies every day. Like, you know, all the musicians and the crew people that all have in-ears and or wireless guitar, bass, whatever, microphones. There's so much wireless going on that their job is to find open frequencies and divvy them up every day. And they'll give you a frequency and a backup frequency. Go, these are your two. And then you have to use those. That's like the only ones you can use. So when it's like that, you obviously need a system that you can dial into a specific frequency. So you need a, you know, pro level wireless that has you know, huge range of selectable frequencies and stuff. So that's the only problem with like the Line 6 and stuff like that. It's not going to work in a situation like that. But for most gigging purposes, you know, if you're doing clubs or, you know, theater tours, you're the only band on the bill, you know, that kind of thing. The Line 6 is pretty solid, man, in my experience. Is 120 watt amp into a Sir reactive load okay? Just don't crank it and okay. That's Javion Vision. I would say probably. You might ask John that question specifically, but yeah, I've heard that asked before, like maybe it's a 5150 or something like that, 120. Makes me think of the PV 5150. You should be okay if you just keep the master, don't, blast into it and just, keep your eye on the load and make sure it's cool. You should be fine, I think. I've heard, I don't want to offer bad advice on that because that's a scary thing. You don't want to smoke your amp or anything like that. But anyway, should be okay. Just go conservative on the master. Wish I could go to NAMM, says Dan. With some money in my pocket would be even better. Yeah, I know. Jazzy Girl says, will the Chris Cornell tribute be on Netflix or some other streaming service? Sorry if I missed it. I got here late. I don't know that. I know it was live streamed. I didn't see anybody filming, to tell you the truth, there. So I was surprised when I heard it was live streamed because it was like, there's no big, it didn't seem like something that was being filmed. But I guess it was live streamed, and there's plenty of YouTube videos and stuff. I don't know what the plans are. Probably. I would think they would probably put something out and, make it a thing. It was an interesting evening, great. I think Stone Gossard did a really nice, he said, I guess this is a step in the right direction. Like, kind of like, like it was, I think probably all the people that were there that knew Chris relatively well or really well or whatever, were probably feeling a similar thing, it's like a mixed bag of emotions. I had a very sort of mixed feeling about the whole thing. It's a great thing, to get together and do, but I want him. There's a huge part of me that just like wants this all to not be true and just to, can I just wake up and none of that happen? He's just here and we can just go on with, and I guess that's probably what everybody feels like. It's just like, I don't want this to be what's going on. Actually, that's not what I want it for the reality to be. So I guess that's what's hard for everyone. Anyway, Jeff says he's up in the top chat. Thanks, Jeff. Says, don't you find with the homogenized profiling sims that creativity amongst masses is starting to disappear? Well, that's a great point. With great tones available to everyone, a lot of artists are sounding the same. It's the beauty of pedals and stuff, I guess, like that, because, no matter what, you're going to get a Jack White that comes along and has some unique, impact, like guitar tones, or Matt Bellamy, who's got some great tones and interesting sounds for sure. But yeah, I've been arguing that for a long time. That I've written whole magazine articles about it and stuff. My premiere article about thanks for the great comment anyway, Jeff, and question. But yeah, Jeff in the top chat, I appreciate that for you doing that. But yeah, they're doing the like Brian May, treble booster into AC30s cranked, or Eddie Van Halen, with his, Dime Marshall, or what's some other examples of unique, guitar tones. I mean, even when I think about like certainly Jimmy Page with weird, Rickenbacker amps and everything he used in the studio, Supro. Jeff Beck, Tony Iommi, Judas Priest with treble boosters into Marshalls, those unique guitar tones. Somebody making a thing their thing as well, like, finding their tone. Richie Blackmore with his Akai tape deck into the Marshalls or AC30, for some of the studio recordings. Simplicity with a couple unique elements. And then Stevie Ray Vaughan, Strats, Tube Screamer, Fenders cranked, do a certain thing. The simplicity in finding, maybe it's the options and the option anxiety, but there's also a volume thing. It's not just the rigs and the rigs and the options that are available on something like a modeler these days. It's the trend towards the no volume, right? Because the one thing all those people had in common that I just brought up is volume. They all played loud. They just did. Hendrix, Eddie Van Halen, Brian May. It was all balls to the wall, volume-wise, Tony Iommi, and that made the guitar scream and do things that in people's hands that it just won't do if you're playing. I don't care if it's a, if you just use an amp isolated or something, it's not going to do that. So the big part of it, what you're talking about, is also the volume thing, and there's no substitute for the amp becomes a part of the instrument. The amp just amplifies the guitar or the model or whatever you're using, and through in-ears and something, and no amps on stage. It's just a amplification device then, but it's not a part of the instrument as much, an organic part of the part you are creating, unless there's the feedback loop through the guitar with the pickups and everything. And then it's like the amp responds in a different way when it's so a big part of it is that. It's two factors, I think, but yeah, so that's why we're trying to do with the tube amp, with Sir, I'm trying to give people something that they, still want to plug in on a stage and all that, but also gives you the flexibility of, some other of these new fangled things. But with the simplicity of the tube, so you could just dial in a great sound, maybe add a pedal if you want or not, or whatever. And then there's your tone. And it's just like somebody, that's the thing. But yeah, it's a thing. Like I say, I've written magazine articles about it. We don't want to turn the guitar into a synthesizer, some facsimile of a tone that once was, that's kind of a drag to me. So yeah, another question about the Cornell tribute. How was it at the Chris Cornell tribute? It seemed like such a great concert with lots of great people involved. Everybody was there, man. I mean, it was, it was, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, other than just a mixed bag of wonderful musicians coming together to honor somebody. And it's like, I wish none of it had happened, because I wish that the reality was different. That's the summation of my feelings about it. And yet, because that's not reality and the awful truth is the awful truth, it was the best thing. And kind of, like I say, Stone sort of said, like, like, I guess this is a step in the right direction. This is what, and I think that's probably what Chris would want, people to come together and play music. I do think there should be an album for him. Somebody brought up, that he wrote an album for Andy Wood when Andy, Mother Love Bone, passed away, and that's Temple of the Dog. And now there should be something similar, so should be some group of, it'd be nice if all those people got together and, folks like the Temple of the Dog folks and Soundgarden, and all the folks that are kind of like in that close periphery, Alan and Matt Chamberlain and, all these types of musicians that were really tight with Chris, and do some sort of something, write some songs and see what comes out of it. Give it that'd be a really nice thing, I think. And in the same kind of way, like Temple, we have to keep in mind that Temple of the Dog happened in such an organic, there was no music business kind of big, all these bands coming together to like the other night, it was like there was an element of big, like with Metallica and Foo Fighters and all these, it's like a big billing sort of thing, right? When Temple happened, it was like, I don't even know if I was aware that much of, because I was in LA. It was like, then, it was all coming out at once. It was like, it seemed like it all happened around the same time. All of a sudden, Bad Motorfinger and, within a year or two, you had Nevermind, Bad Motorfinger, and the Temple of the Dog, and, Facelift from Alice in Chains was out. And then, you get into 93 and 94 and all of a sudden it was super unknown. But Temple happened. It was like it was like their little club, and they did it in such an organic, like nobody even needs to know about it. Maybe, like what, and then you can just put it out, like whoever's involved, just make it like that organic kind of beautiful thing where, it's not a star-studded affair necessarily. It would be a star-studded affair. You know what I mean? Like this, like an organic, everybody getting together and just do it. Like devote some time. I think that'd be beautiful if that happened. But anyway, any chance for another Steve Stevens duel? That's Nathaniel, my friend Steve. I love Steve so much. He's so great. He's out in Vegas now doing run of Billy Idol shows at the Pearl, I believe. If anybody's going to be out in Vegas, but I'd love to do more. We'll do more together for sure. Would love to do something else with them. Do you use in-ear monitors, says Alvin? Sometimes. I have 64 ears, A5s. They're nice. I use them when need be, when the gig calls for it. Well, I've almost gone all the way to 1. I'm going to go 8 more minutes, guys. Actually, yeah, because I started 15 minutes late, didn't I? Or 10 minutes late. So, yeah, so I'll go just another 10 minutes or so here. Is it a waste to spend money fixing up an old guitar with new pickups, a bridge, fretwork, or should I spend the money on a new guitar? That's from Nat Brajo. Well, it really depends. Do you feel like bonded to that guitar? Is there something sentimental you love about it? You know, I don't think it's a waste at all. Look at Eddie Van Halen. You know, he was like a $50 body and a $70 neck or whatever it was, or $70 body and a $50 neck. And he just kept painting it and bolting it and you know, up for 10, well, not 10 years, but, you know, 6, 7, 8 years of making that thing work, putting new necks on it. And he did a whole career on that guitar before, you know, moving on to other instruments. So, if the guitar has a sentimental value and you think it's a special thing, you know, there's nothing wrong with fixing up an old. I'm all about getting as much as you can out of something. But if you just don't bond with it and you're like really lusting for a new instrument, then I would say move on, you know. What are my thoughts on digital delay or analog delay? I'm looking at a Memory Man and the digital box seems to really do well, which is surprising to me. Yeah, I mean, it's all, you know, I don't think it really matters these days whether it's, to be honest, like for all practical purposes, gigging and simple sessions and stuff like that. It's like, do you really need the Echoplex, or is the El Capistan going to get the same effect once it's in the mix with everything else? I mean, is anybody going to know that it's the tape delay? It's, I guess, the vibe of, you know, playing a real tape delay is fun, and you know, those tube tape echoes from Full Tone and stuff, where you can move the big slider and stuff. You might do something different that, you know, having just a knob there or whatever doesn't allow you to do. But you know, I think that for the most part, it's not a worry. If you like the sound of the thing, that's all that matters. You know, you don't have to worry about it being analog or digital as long as it sounds good. Moving down. ALK says, Elfstad says, I have V60 LP pickup in the bridge position on my Strat. Should I upgrade to a V60 LP? Oh, you have V60 LP neck pickup in the bridge position. Should I upgrade to V60 LP bridge? Well, the neck is going to be a little less hot. That's, by the way, what Scott Henderson uses, I think, is he uses the same, I'm not sure if that's the model he uses, but he uses the same pickup in the bridge as he does in the neck. That's what he likes. He doesn't like a different output there. So there's nothing wrong with it, but you might, if you want a little more juice, a little more mids out of the bridge, you could get the other one. Where to demo Thornbuckers? You got to find a Sir dealer that's probably got a guitar with one in stock. It depends where you live. Yeah. Chris says, how are you enjoying the new home and location? Having fun, still getting to know the hood and stuff like that. But I moved out to Pasadena, if anybody's out there. So maybe I'll see you around Pasadena sometime. I like Pasadena. It's seems to be a good vibe. V-drums work great in a band situation with amp modeler and Bose PAS systems. So those crazy Bose systems, I guess that sort of, you know, broadcast their sound evenly, right? So that would probably work pretty good, I would think. Let's see. Miguel's asking about the tremolo, the Wilkinson, and will it be available just for Sir or available for other manufacturers? I think he's giving Sir quite a good run on the beginning, the everything he can make for a little while. I don't think it's going to be an exclusive thing, though. It'll probably go elsewhere as well. But don't quote me on that. But John's can use everything he can make for a minute. So, do you know why Yogi used so much coily cable on tour with Cornell? Always found it a little weird, says Max. So the other guitar player in Chris's band, Yogi, he used to use a big coily cord. And he just loved it because he loved the look, just like Jimmy. It's like that stretched out coily cord has and it was sort of became part of his thing. And he used to use these very beefy coily cables. And I'll tell you a funny, really, really funny story. But Yogi's funny in that he has this great, he's very fearless. And I always loved that about him because I'm much more like anal retentive about my tones and about my playing. And Yogi's just a great player that's very fearless. He was I always said like the Jimmy Page Hendrix kind of element in the band. And I was more like the Robert Fripp or something, like I was more like the dialed in. But I learned a lot from watching him, and that helped me moving forward into like Melissa Etheridge's band and stuff like that, of being more improvisational and a little looser, But anyway, one day he was doing his typically Yogi loose, awesome, bluesy self, and he was up at the front of the stage and playing a solo, and was ripping on a solo, and the coily cable's coming out of the guitar going like this, stretched way out. And I don't know if he meant to do this, but Cornell always had a heavy mic stand with a big round bass, and he took his mic stand, with the bass up here, and he took it and he went and just nailed it into the stage. And he managed to hit, and like I say, I don't know to this day if he did it on purpose or not, but when he did it, he cut the cable in half. It landed right on top of the coily cable, and it was a beefy coily cable, and it literally just sliced the cable right in half, and the cable snapped up the Yogi's guitar, and it was like dangling, like the rest of what was left of the cables dangling, and Yogi just keeps on playing, and then at some point he's like, I don't think I can hear my guitar anymore. You just sort of see him turn around, and I could barely play. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. His tech scrambling and brings him out another guitar with another cable, But Cornell, that was, it's those moments that I remember that are just like, God, it's so funny, man. There's a lot of funny moments like on stage. He'd love to be. There's a lot of internal jokes on stage that were really funny. Like, just kind of, it was like when we were up there and it was just us, it was our five, we were a band, and it was like a gang, and he was just one of the gang, and it was super fun. In that, he was just like, he didn't give a shit. It was his gig. His name's on the bill, and he went up and just took Yogi's guitar out mid solo. And he could joke around like that and be pretty funny, So, sorry. God, can't wait till I get over this cough. Pete, heard of Pat Travers, of course. Boom, boom, out go the lights. That's David Smith. Yeah. Moving down. Want to get into home recording? Where to start, says Jack. Well, if you have a Mac, it probably has GarageBand on it. You just need a simple recording interface to get your guitar into something like GarageBand. You could use plugins. You don't have to mic an amp or anything. If you want to mic an amp, just get a simple recording interface. I use UA stuff. I love Apogee G2. If you want to go even like sort of less expensive, there's nice units from Focusrite and from PreSonus makes really solid stuff for very reasonable. A couple $100 you can get into an interface and buy yourself an SM57 and a mic cable, maybe one good like inexpensive condenser. The Samson G-Track mic I have here is a great inexpensive high quality condenser you could use. This is an interface too, so literally like this has the cable coming. This is what I'm talking through right now. USB cable coming out of it, plugs into the computer. You could use this mic. Buy this for you. This is an interface and microphone. Plug headphones into it and listen to the sound coming out of it. And this is how you could throw this thing in front of an amp and track with this. You can make a whole record with this microphone. So there's ways to do it for not very expensive. And then you kind of go from there. You figure out what you need beyond that, what you want to do. And David says, good evening from France. You are a fabulous artist. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, man. Let's see here. Moving down. I think I'm going to go all the way to the end of the chat here, folks, and just move all the way down and take the last couple questions, and then I'm going to jet. Leon says he bought a Squire 72 thin line over the Made in Mexico one. I heard them play them together, compared them a lot. For me, the Squire plays better, feels better. Have you ever checked them out? You know, they're doing some great stuff. I mean, I think the Squire stuff's probably made in China these days, but as we all know, that's gotten so much better. And whatever speaks to you, man. Thoughts on late 80s ESP guitars? Great. You know, they were always cool. Like, you know, George Lynch, and that's my memories of him, you know. Obviously Akira from Loudness, you know, that's what I think of when I think of ESP in the 80s. Telecaster with dual humbuckers versus Les Paul. Thoughts? Well, it's always going to be a little snappier, a little less mids, but cool for some stuff. Let's see. Favorite way to use Leslie style effects? What comes to mind is arpeggiated chords in stereo, you know, just kind of a stereo arpeggiated. Think about the intro to Sail to Heaven, you know, parts like that. That seems just, that's what that, when I think of Leslie's, you know, arpeggiating through chords and kind of like in a stereo, you know, with the pulsing kind of Leslie thing. There's something great about it. You can have that kind of tucked behind a track, and it just, the Leslie kind of diffuses it and makes it so that the arpeggiation isn't so sharp. You know, it's got this diffuse quality to it, but you're still hearing arpeggios, and maybe it's just kind of beatly or something to do that. What do you record your gear demos through? Well, I use Apogee interfaces. I use Logic. I use actually UA interfaces. I used to use Apogee, and I love Apogee, and I'm friends with those folks. So it's good stuff too. But I use Universal Audio interfaces now, and I use Logic as my DAW, and I use simple cameras from Sony, consumer grade video and DSLR style. Surf by says, lovely Sunday live chats. Thanks, man. What's your preference, or what's your process on changing strings with locking tuners? I usually do one at a time, which takes a little longer, but I don't know, rather than take them all off. That's just kind of what I do. So the bridge doesn't get all wonky and almost fall off when you remove all the strings, you know. Or at least sometimes I'll do two at a time, like take two off and then put two on and then move on. Okay. Let's see. Good, simple to use vocal compressor, outboard, inexpensive. Look into some of the stuff from Warm Audio. I've got friends. I tend to do everything in the box these days. I do have an 1176 here. I've got one of those UA 6176s that has a tube pre and an 1176 in it. It's easy. You just dial the kind of the 10 and 2 on the input and output. 4-to-1, and you know, slow attack, fast release, and then dial from there if you need to, you know, tweak. But it works great. You know, 4 dB of gain reduction. I really love LA2As on vocals though. The other compressor I really like that's fast and stuff on vocals, but it seems to work for pushing a vocal forward, is a DBX 160, which is just a really easy to use, simple. You can get a distressor. You know, that's a great kind of thing to have around, but it's kind of, you can get into trouble with distressors. You just have to experiment more. You know, you just have to experiment more. There's some bullshit going on at the end of the chat here with some fucker that's like, sorry, he's like posting porn or something. Sorry guys, I'll get rid of him. Sorry about that. Dummies. Hey man, you never, it just means you're popular, right? If you got, you know, more bullshit going on. How many beers can you drink before you pass out? Says dances reluctantly. You stop dancing reluctantly the more beers you have. I don't know. It's been a long time since I passed out from drinking beers. Okay, guys, so much time to go. Things are disintegrating here at the end of the chat. So, what's your favorite signature guitar other than your own? Oh, that's a good question. I love the Thornley one from, you know, you just get a really unique neck on it and stuff, and a really comfortable, cool neck. I like the new John Mayer PRS. I played it and it was fun. Great sounding pickups in it and stuff. That's a really cool guitar. My Eddie Van Halen, my Wolfgang, you know, I love that guitar. Got a great sound. The Les Paul, let's not forget, is a signature guitar. It's got to be everybody's favorite signature guitar, right? I know we forget sometimes, but Leon says, thanks for doing these chats. Thank you, sure. Leon Barron, I appreciate it. Braxall says you have a Les Paul for sale. I did. I don't think I'm going to sell it. I might have one coming up soon though. I do have a, if anybody's interested, I have a nice, great, it's a standard with a 60s neck from about 2007 or 8. And it's cherry sunburst, and it has Wolfgang pickups in it right now, and it has a Fishman bridge in it. So you can do faux acoustic kind of sounds with it. I might sell that guitar. I don't know. I just haven't used it in years. So it's like, why do I have this guitar? But it's a great Les Paul. You know, it's a good utility, you know, cherry sunburst Les Paul. So I'll think about that. But anyways, dances reluctantly, says Pete, you rock. Thank you, sir. And Hoy Poli says, if I want to send you a pedal, where would I send it? Hit me up. Just send me an email at petethorn@ymail.com. There's a contact form on my website, and let's chat. Would you mod a vintage Marshall amp? If it's Dave Friedman or John Suhr doing it, I have no qualms about it, unless it's like some kind of like, if it was incredibly accurate and, you know, or like dialed in historic perfect, you know, then why mod it if you don't have to? But you got to change filter caps. You guys should know that, right? Amp needs to be recapped every 10 years or so, or it's just not safe and the tone starts slipping anyway. The filter caps are bad. So modding to change the tone, if it's like Friedman or somebody then doing a vintage Marshall, they you know, they could fix a Marshall in the woods. They know every single part. Just have them document what they did, and then they can always put it back. So yeah, I think the days of worrying about it are kind of like, you know, are long gone. If it's just a simple, if it's like a heavy mod, then it's like, you know, like a bunch of stuff, then yeah, I would probably be reluctant about it, because you can just get an SL68 or something that, to be honest, my best sounding Marshall is my SL68. And, you know, something like that you can mod and not worry about screwing up something that's vintage and worth a ton of vintage cash. How did Soundgarden record the intro for Loud Love and Rusty Cage? I wish I could tell you. Ebo, or probably Volume. It sounds like Volume to me. The weird sound at the beginning of Rusty Cage, I always tried to figure out, and I never asked Chris exactly how they did it. I used to use a hyperfuzz. The first lick I used to use a hyperfuzz on because it had the octave divider, and I play it on the neck pickup, and then I'd go to the bridge pickup after that, you know, I'd switch. But the hyperfuzz worked good for the octaver for the first lick. I'd go and Yogi'd go right. And that's how I did it. Loud Love, I just used Volume because we used to play that a lot. I just, and it said I was loud, so it was like, it was fun. Yeah, loved it. Love the Cornell story, says Mike. The memories keep him alive. I agree. I know. I just wish he was still here to make more. Steve says, my JCM 800 was last serviced by Ken Fisher. I'm reluctant to let anyone touch it. I hear you. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. You need caps still, but you can fix a Marshall in the woods. Dave could fix a Marshall in the woods. Probably like a voltmeter and soldering iron and some resistors and caps and stuff. And you'd be good. See at the aux panel, says Corey. Be prepared to answer all those questions again. Yeah, we'll see you guys. Okay, I think it's time to go, guys. I got to split, but this was great. Thanks for all being here. We had tons of people online today, close to 500 for the whole thing. That was awesome. I can't thank you enough. And I guess next week it'll be post NAMM, so I will get up and come in and do this, and we can talk about whatever I saw. I'll be probably be trying to get out a video of my kind of NAMM wrap up or whatever too that day. But I'll come in and do a live stream, same time, same place, same channel. All right, y'all. Have a great week. Thanks for being here. And please hit the thumbs up if you haven't. It really helps. Please subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Keep it moving forward. Trying to get to 150,000 subscribers. Keep it moving. And there'll be lots of videos and good stuff coming this week. So you guys will see tons of stuff from watch my IG and my follow me on Instagram if you haven't. Watch my Facebook and stuff for updates on, photos and stuff like that that's coming this week. Okay, y'all, take care.